All right, y'all. So we're going over two quick modules here just to wrap up this block on sports performance. So let's just kind of get after it here. We are going over performance session design. So really what we're looking at here is our warm-ups, right? So we're looking after our warm-ups and our cooldowns. We get lots of questions about this. How do we optimize the session? We already kind of went over in our previous sports performance module what we're looking at in terms of designing a strength and conditioning session. So now we're going after how to optimize a warm-up and a cooldown in a game day situation and an everyday situation. So like I said, we're going to be going over the warm-up, the cool-down, the elusive question, right, to stretch or not to stretch. We're going to get into an intro to movement resets and then kind of how to implement this with strength and conditioning sessions. So the standard, right, we see this research time and time and time again. And really, it comes down to a couple of things, right? It comes down really to a couple of things, right? It really comes down to the FIFA 11 warm-up, right? So the standard here, guys, it's the FIFA 11 warm-up, right? We've seen this research time and time and time again. We know the standard of this one. We know that it has great utility, right? We know there's benefits to this. But I'm going to say that it is very generic, right? Does it help decrease injuries? Yes. As a baseline standard, should we be implementing this? Yes, absolutely. And this is pretty much the typical, right? It's pretty much the typical warm up. So you're looking at getting 2 lines worth of players, running in a straight line, coming around, doing the open the gate, close the gate, circling your partner, quick turning, running backwards and forwards, then getting into strength and plyometrics and balance. So again, really kind of mimicking that ABCs we talked about before, right? The agility, balance, and coordination. So in level 1, you're going to do a plank, a side plank, a Nordic hamstring curl, a single leg hold the ball, a squat with your toes up, and then a vertical jump, right? Not a bad little warm up. If that's easy for someone, then you're going to do a plank with leg extensions, a side plank with hip lowering, another Nordic hamstring curl, single leg stance with throwing the ball, walking lunges, lateral jumps. And then on the third level here, if it gets super hard, we can go one leg lift and hold with basically a little bit more endurance on the plank, side plank with a leg lift, another variation of the Nordics, a single leg stance with your partner pushing you off balance, single leg squats, and then box jumps. Now you can go into running exercises. You can run across the pitch, do running and bounding, plant and cut, and really kind of showing you what optimal knee position is to avoid an ACL injury. So again, a very, very solid warm-up, right? Again, very generic. If you're gonna put together a quick warm-up that you know is gonna help kind of activate people, activate your athletes' muscles and get them at the point where they probably will have a decent decrease in injury risk, it's a good place to start. But we don't want to do the standard here, right? We want to go above and beyond. This is very generic, but take the concepts of this, right? Running exercises, getting the heart rate up. That's what we're doing with that warm-up, right? Strength, plyometric, and balance. What are we doing there? We're conditioning our bodies to the task ahead. We're getting our body prepped to stabilize, to be strength and not get knocked off the ball. Prepping individual motions that we're going to go through the games and the specific muscles that we're going to be working through. It does a lot of these things. It checks a lot of boxes. So again, if you want a quick and easy thing that you can kind of start implementing today, this is the way to start. Again, there's not a better researched warm-up in the world, so it's reliable. You can use it. But we can always take it a step better using the principles, the underlying principles. So what are the components of an optimal warm-up, right? We need to increase heart rate and body temperature, number one, right? That's going to allow our muscles to work optimally, not get strained, and limit the amount of injuries that we're going to get. The blood flow is really what we're looking for there. Second thing we're looking for is to prime the neuromuscular system. So what does that mean? We talked in the previous module about how agility ladders don't really improve speed. They just get our brains working a little bit and make us kind of think a little bit. That's what we're looking to do. We're trying to get that brain to body connection to get them primed, get them ready, and get them ready to go, right? The third thing on there, practice specific movement patterns. If you're coaching soccer specific patterns, right? Are we going into practicing multi-directional movements? Are we practicing cutting, jumping, landing, doing some random motions, some reactionary drills, right? Ultimately, those are the three big things that we're looking to do with an optimal warm-up. What we're not wanting to do is limit their performance, right? So we want to gradually build an intensity. So we don't want to just tire them out before warm-up, but for the warm-up, right? We want them to be like optimally stressed and ready to go, so that minute one is like being in the middle of the first half. So you're already kind of warmed up and ready to go, and you're kind of on it already, right? The big take home here is you should not stretch within 40 minutes of kickoff at the very minimum. I prefer it to be an hour before if you're going to stretch. And here's why. There's a lot of studies that have come out, and we'll link those for you in the workbook. I have all the references for you. But there is quite a few studies that show that if you statically stretch your muscles, they will decrease in power by up to 30% for up to an hour after the stretch. So you're 30% less powerful for an hour after you stretch. So why are we stretching 10 minutes before a game? You're not going to be performing optimally if you have 30% of your power knocked off of you because you stretched. So that's the importance of stretching. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but I feel tight. I need to stretch out. That's a mental block. So that's fine. Stretch, but do it an hour before practice or do it an hour before the game. Don't do it right before during your warm-up. You're going to kill your progress. You're going to kill your performance that day. And I can't stress that enough. So how do we design a warm-up? We already know our individual athletes have specific things that they need to improve upon and certain things that they need to be working on daily. Those are those mobility and stability concerns that we flagged during the assessment process. We've given them 4 to 5 exercises for them to work on daily. So they should start their warm-up by doing those 4 or 5 exercises to prime their body specifically for game or for practices. Again, it's 4 to 5 exercises, so it's not very much. From the individual warm-up, we then transition into the team warm-up. So if it's a match day, again, stretch 60 minutes before, no sooner. Okay? Or sorry, no later than that, okay? Like we don't want you stretching within an hour of the game, okay? For about 5 minutes, you want to raise your heart rate by about 15 to 25%. So look at what your baseline is, do a little bit of simple math on your heart rate monitors and make sure that your athletes are raising their heart rates a little bit. They do their individual program, it takes about 10 minutes. Then they get a few individual touches on the ball for another 5 minutes. Then we're getting into a dynamic team warm-up for about 10 minutes, which can be the FIFA 11, or it can be a team warm-up just like the FIFA 11 with those individual components, but we're adding in different variable motions so that your team isn't getting bored with the same warm-up every single time. After that, we're doing 5 minutes of reactive drills and then 10 to 15 drills with the ball as a team for the tactical stuff that you need to do, your rondos, your small-sided games, your little drills that you want to do before the warm-up. That should be 10 to 15 minutes before the game starts. Get them out, do your last tactical assessment, get them out on the field. It's game day. All right. So there's an hour-long warm-up before you get into the game. And again, we're not doing a whole lot here, right? We're really just getting things prepped. And this could even be 30 to 40, like you can even get this in 30 to 40 minutes, right? Like 5 minutes for heart rate, 10 minutes for individual program, 5 minutes for balls. So that's 20, 30 minutes after the team warm up, 35, and then 45 minutes if you do 10 minutes of tactical rondos or whatever the case you're doing, right? Now on a practice day, again, individual warm up for 10 minutes, increase the heart rate or prime the neural system with some agility ladder stuff, 5 minutes. Dynamic series or reactive drills for 5 minutes, and then touches on the ball for 5 minutes. So you got a 20 to 25 minute warm up on practice days. Again, if you're a club or a high school or something like that, and you're in your crunch for time, that's okay. They've got to do this by themselves. This is something they have to show up. If you're practicing before or after school, they need to show up 5-10 minutes early just to get these done. Or you run practice 10 minutes later so they can get this done. Cool down. Cool down's a completely different story, right? So first thing I always say is, people always want to stretch after they work out. That's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. Stretching, foam rolling, and then even those Theraguns, those are super popular nowadays. All of those are totally fine things to use after your workout, after your practice, after your game. Okay. Postural restoration, that is the hip repositioning series that we went over in the human movement module. Those 3 exercises should be done directly after every single match day and every single practice as a reset to make sure we're not carrying any injuries or carrying any bad positions from knocks during the game. Ice is a hot topic, and we'll get into that into the recovery strategies module. But if they want to immediately ice afterwards, that's fine, but no more than 10 minutes immediately after working out. Heat is the preferred option after working out because it's going to increase the blood flow, increase the flushing out of inflammation. It's going to actually speed up recovery much more than ice is if you heat. So put a heating pad on there afterwards. And that's it, right? That's optimal design for warm-ups and cooldowns. Pretty straightforward stuff. Again, do a little bit more research on the FIFA 11 if you haven't already. Most of you already are doing some form of that, so your warm-up is probably already pretty good. But adding these individual components and adding a little bit of variety is going to take that to the next level.